I opened my eyes and knew I had died. The ceiling above me was wrong. It was white. Not gray. Clean. Not stained with water damage from the storm that had ripped through Boston 3 years after I stopped paying the mortgage. The sheets beneath my fingers were soft. Expensive. They smelled like lavender and money. Not like the cheap synthetic fabric I'd been sleeping on in that studio apartment with the broken heater and the landlord who didn't care if I froze. I sat up so fast my head spun. My room. My childhood room. The same pale blue walls I'd picked out when I was 12. The same oak dresser with the scratched top from the time I tried to carve my initials with a butter knife. The same window overlooking the back garden where my mother used to grow roses before Evelyn convinced her that landscaping was a waste of money and suggested they hire a family friend who charged triple the market rate and kicked back 40% to her personal account. My hands were small. Young. I held them in front of my face and stared at the unlined skin. The unpainted nails. The absence of the scar on my left thumb from the day I'd tried to cook for myself after Evelyn fired the kitchen staff, and I'd sliced through an avocado pit like an idiot. Celeste. My mother's voice. Younger. Softer. Not yet worn down by 20 years of being slowly poisoned by a woman she thought was her best friend. Diane Vanderbilt pushed open the door and stepped inside. She was beautiful. I'd forgotten how beautiful she was before Evelyn got to her. Before the accidents that left her fragile and dependent. Before the medication that Evelyn helpfully picked up from the pharmacy and always seemed to adjust without consulting the doctor. "You're awake," she said, smiling. "You had us worried. The doctor said it was just a bad cold. But you've been sleeping for almost 16 hours. 16 hours. I'd been dead for longer than that. I'd been dead for 3 years. If you counted the time between the car hitting me in that parking lot and whatever the hell this was. Or maybe I'd been dead for no time at all. Maybe this was some kind of second chance. A do. Over. A reset button that someone. God. The universe. My own desperate brain. Had handed me when I wasn't looking. Mom. I said. My voice cracked. I didn't care. What day is it? Tuesday. Sweetheart. June 5th. What year? She laughed. Did you hit your head when I wasn't looking? It's 2026. The same year it was yesterday. I was 14 years old. The cold I'd caught had knocked me out for a day. In my past life. My other life. My real life. The one I'd actually lived. This was the summer before everything started to go wrong. This was the summer Evelyn began pushing Richard toward the merger with Marcus Webb. This was the summer my mother started getting headaches that no doctor could explain. This was the summer before the avalanche. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand. Old model. I'd just gotten it for my birthday. No cracked screen. No collection agency voicemails. No angry texts from people I'd borrowed money from and couldn't pay back. I needed to move fast. In my past life, I'd been blind. I'd trusted everyone. I'd believed Evelyn when she said she was just trying to help. I'd believed Richard when he said the money problems were temporary. I'd believed Diane when she said she was fine. Just tired. Just a little under the weather. Nothing to worry about. I wasn't going to believe anyone ever again. Mom, can you get Dad for me? I need to talk to both of you. Diane tilted her head. Can it wait until after breakfast? You need to eat something. No, I said. It can't wait. Please. It's important. She hesitated. I could see the confusion in her eyes. I'd never been the kind of daughter who demanded family meetings. I'd been the kind of daughter who stayed in her room and read books and let the adults handle adult things. That was how Evelyn had wanted me. Passive. Uninterested. Easily manipulated. But I wasn't that girl anymore. That girl had died on the asphalt of a parking lot. Run down by a car that never stopped. Left to bleed out while people screamed and someone called 911 and no one saved her because no one even knew her name anymore. Okay, Diane said slowly. I'll get your father. She left. I threw off the covers and stood up. My legs felt weak. But that was just the cold. Or maybe it was the shock of being alive when I clearly remembered being dead. Either way, I walked to my closet and pulled on jeans and a sweater. I didn't look at myself in the mirror. I didn't want to see the face of a girl who hadn't yet learned how cruel the world could be. I went downstairs. The kitchen smelled like coffee and fresh bread. My mother baked when she was nervous. She'd been baking more and more in the months before the merger. I hadn't noticed then. I noticed everything now. Evelyn stood at the counter, pouring orange juice into 4 glasses. She looked exactly as I remembered her. Mid-50s. Graying hair pulled back in a tight bun. Wire. Rimmed glasses that made her look like a librarian instead of a parasite. She wore a simple blue dress that my mother had bought for her last Christmas. Designer. Expensive. More than most people made in a month. Diane had insisted. Evelyn had pretended to refuse. Then she'd accepted and worn it every Sunday to remind everyone how generous the Vanderbilts were to their poor. Struggling housekeeper. Morning, Celeste, Evelyn said, smiling. That smile. I'd seen it 1,000 times. It had never reached her eyes. I'd always known that. Somewhere deep down. I just hadn't wanted to admit it. Morning, I said. My voice was flat. I didn't care. Sasha sat at the kitchen table, doing homework. She was 14. Same as me. But she looked younger. Smaller. She'd always been small. Evelyn used that to her advantage. Look at my poor, tiny daughter. Look how hard she works. Look how she deserves the same opportunities as Celeste. Same schools. Same clothes. Same tutors. Same everything. I'd never resented Sasha. In my past life, I'd felt sorry for her. She was smart and funny, and she didn't ask for any of this. She was just a kid. Same as me. Then I remembered Sasha standing over me in that alley. The knife in her hand. The smile on her face. Mom says you're not supposed to be here. She'd said. She says you're supposed to be dead already. But since you're not, I guess I have to fix it. The police had found me an hour later. Sasha was gone. Evelyn was gone. The money was gone. Everything was gone. Celeste. Sasha looked up at me, her brown eyes wide with concern. Are you okay? You look really pale. Fine, I said. Just tired. I sat down at the table across from her. She smiled at me. In my past life, I would have smiled back. This time, I just stared. I wanted her to feel uncomfortable. I wanted her to wonder what I knew. Richard walked in a few minutes later. My father. He was handsome in the way rich men always are. Well dressed. Well groomed. Well rested. He kissed Diane on the cheek, ruffled my hair, nodded at Evelyn like she was furniture, and sat down at the head of the table. So, he said, picking up the newspaper. What's this important meeting about? I waited until everyone was seated. Diane, Richard, Evelyn, standing by the counter like she was part of the family instead of an employee. Sasha, pretending to do math but really watching me with those careful eyes. I froze the accounts. I said, silence. Richard put down his coffee cup. What? I called Mr. Harrison this morning. I told him to freeze every single account. Personal, business, trusts, everything. Nothing goes in. Nothing comes out. Effective immediately. Diane's fork clattered onto her plate. Celeste, what are you talking about? You can't just. I used the code. I said, Emerald skies. You told me when I was 12. Dad, you said if I ever needed to make a decision that affected the whole family, I could use that phrase and Mr. Harrison would do whatever I asked. Richard's face went red. That code was for emergencies. Not for. What exactly are you trying to accomplish here? I looked at Evelyn. She was standing very still, the pitcher of orange juice frozen in her hand. Her face was calm, but I saw the muscle in her jaw twitch. She knew. She didn't know how I knew, but she knew something was wrong. This morning, I said slowly, I went through the last 6 months of bank statements. The ones Mr. Harrison sends to the house every month. Did you know that $60,000 was transferred to a company called Web Consulting last week? Did you know that company doesn't exist? Richard's face went from red to white. That's a business expense. Marcus is an old friend. He's been helping me with Marcus Webb, I said. Hasn't worked a legitimate job in 15 years. He's been living off money he's stolen from this family. And you've been helping him? Dad, maybe not on purpose. Maybe you thought you were making smart investments. But every check you wrote to Web Consulting went straight into an offshore account that Evelyn has access to. Evelyn set down the pitcher. Her hands were steady. I hated how steady they were. Celeste. Honey, I think you might be confused. You've been sick. Maybe you dreamed something. I didn't dream anything. I said, I have the statements. I have the transaction records. I have a list of every single time you've used my mother's credit card to buy things that ended up in your closet instead of hers. Diane turned to look at Evelyn. Her mouth was open. Evelyn, what is she talking about? Nothing, Evelyn said. Her voice was still calm, but I heard the edge underneath. She's a child. She doesn't understand how these things work. Richard, talk to your daughter. Richard stood up. He was taller than me, broader, and he was used to getting his way. Celeste, you will call Mr. Harrison right now and unfreeze those accounts. This is not a negotiation. I won't, I said. Celeste, you want to know why I won't? I reached into my pocket and pulled out the folder I'd prepared in the 30 minutes between waking up and coming downstairs. The folder I'd spent years compiling in my past life. Every scrap of evidence. Every bank statement. Every email. Every recorded conversation. I'd hidden it in a safety deposit box that Evelyn didn't know about. I'd added to it until the day I died. And now, somehow, impossibly, it was here in my hands. I slapped the folder onto the table. Shall I read it aloud? I said, looking directly at Evelyn. Or would you like to explain yourself? Evelyn didn't move. Neither did anyone else. The kitchen was so quiet I could hear the clock ticking on the wall. Then Evelyn smiled. It was the same smile she'd given me in my past life, right before she told the judge that I was unstable, that I was a danger to myself and others, that I needed to be institutionalized for my own good. That smile had cost me 2 years of my life. 2 years in a facility where the doctors believed her because she was so charming, so reasonable, so clearly just a concerned family friend trying to help a troubled girl. Celeste, Evelyn said softly, I think you need to lie down. You're not well. Diane, can you see that she gets back to bed? No, Diane said. Her voice was shaky, but she didn't move. I want to see what's in that folder. Richard reached for it. I let him take it. He opened it, flipped through the first few pages, and went pale. Where did you get this? I found it, I said, but that's not important. What's important is that Evelyn Webb has been stealing from this family for 15 years. She started small. A few thousand here, a few thousand there. Then she got greedy. She started forging signatures. She started opening credit cards in your name. Dad. In Mom's name. In my name. That's a lie, Evelyn said. But her voice cracked. Just a little. Just enough for me to hear. Is it? I pulled out a piece of paper from the back of the folder. This is a credit card statement from a card opened in your name. Dad. 6 years ago. It has a balance of $47,000. The purchases include jewelry, airline tickets, and a down payment on a car. The car was found in Evelyn's garage. Diane stood up. Her chair scraped against the floor. Evelyn, is this true? Evelyn looked at Richard. Richard looked at the folder. Neither of them said anything. Sasha spoke instead. You're lying, she said quietly. Her eyes were fixed on me, and there was something in them I hadn't seen before. Not hurt, not confusion. Anger. Pure, cold anger. My mother wouldn't do that. She's been loyal to your family for years. She's given up everything for you. Has she? I turned to Sasha. Has she really? Or has she been telling you a story about how the Vanderbilt stole everything from her family? How we're the villains? How we owe her something? Sasha's face flushed. That's not. She told you about Adelaide Vanderbilt, didn't she? About how Adelaide's sister was cut out of the will. That sister was your great-grandmother, right? Sasha didn't answer. She didn't have to. I saw the truth in her eyes. Adelaide Vanderbilt didn't have a sister. I said, she had a half-sister who was caught stealing from the family and disowned. That half-sister is your ancestor. Sasha, you weren't cheated. You were caught. Just like your mother is about to be caught. Evelyn moved. She was fast. Faster than I expected. She lunged for the folder. Grabbed it. And tried to pull it away from Richard. But Richard was stronger. He held on. Yanked it back. And sent Evelyn stumbling into the counter. Get out, Richard said. His voice was cold. Colder than I'd ever heard it. Richard, please, get out of my house. Evelyn straightened her dress. She looked at Diane. She looked at Sasha. She looked at me. You'll regret this, she said quietly. All of you. She walked out the back door. Sasha followed her, shooting me one last look of pure hatred before the door slammed shut. Diane sat down heavily. I don't understand. She's been with us for 15 years. She was my friend. She was never your friend. Mom, I said. She was waiting. Watching. Learning how to take everything we have. Richard was still staring at the folder. Celeste, how did you find all of this? Some of these documents are from. This one is dated last week. You've been sick in bed. I met his eyes. I've been watching too. Dad, I've just been better at hiding it. He didn't believe me. I could see that. But he also couldn't explain what was in front of him. So he did what he always did when he didn't understand something. He changed the subject. I'm calling Marcus, he said. He'll know what to do about the accounts. Don't, I said. Marcus Webb is part of this. He's the one who's been helping Evelyn hide the money. Richard shook his head. Marcus is my friend. He wouldn't. Marcus Webb is the man who almost ruined you in the merger 10 years ago. The merger that Evelyn convinced you to pursue. The merger that cost this family $2 million. The merger that Marcus walked away from with a smile and a new house in the Hamptons. Richard's hand froze over his phone. How do you know about that? You were 4 years old. I know a lot of things. Dad. I stood up. I know that Evelyn isn't just a thief. I know she's been planning this for years. And I know that if we don't act fast, she's going to destroy this family. Diane looked at me like she didn't recognize me. She didn't. The daughter she knew was a quiet girl who read books and stayed out of trouble. The daughter sitting across from her was someone else entirely. Celeste, Diane said slowly. What happened to you? I thought about the car. The impact. The darkness. The years of being broke and alone and forgotten. The moment I realized that no one was coming to save me because no one even remembered I existed. I woke up. I said. Evelyn didn't leave quietly. I knew she wouldn't. In my past life, she'd spent 20 years building her empire inside our home. She had keys to every door, codes to every alarm system, relationships with every vendor, every contractor, every employee who worked for the Vanderbilt family. She'd made herself essential. Indispensable. The kind of person you couldn't fire because she knew where all the bodies were buried. Except she'd buried most of those bodies herself. She showed up at the back door 3 hours later with Sasha in tow. Sasha was crying. Evelyn was not. Evelyn had mastered the art of tears without crying. The trembling lip. The watery eyes. The voice that cracked in all the right places. It was a performance. And she'd had 15 years to perfect it. Richard. She said through the glass. Please. Just let me explain. Richard was in his study. On the phone with the bank. He'd been on the phone for 2 hours. I could hear his voice rising and falling through the door. Anger. Confusion. Denial. Acceptance. Anger again. He was cycling through the stages of grief the way he always did when something threatened his carefully constructed reality. Diane answered the door. I wanted to stop her. I wanted to drag her away from Evelyn's poisonous presence. But I also knew that Diane needed to see for herself. She needed to watch Evelyn lie. She needed to hear the false sincerity. The manufactured tears. The rehearsed explanations. She needed to understand that the woman she'd called her best friend was a snake. Evelyn. You shouldn't be here. Diane said. But she didn't close the door. Diane. Please. Celeste is confused. She's been sick. The fever must have affected her mind. I could never. Evelyn's voice broke perfectly. I've been with your family for 15 years. I helped raise Celeste. I was there when you lost the baby. I held your hand. How could you think I would betray you? I stepped out of the kitchen. You weren't holding her hand. Evelyn. You were making sure the baby didn't survive. Silence. Evelyn's eyes snapped to me. For a fraction of a second. I saw something real in them. Shock. Fear. Recognition that I knew something I absolutely should not know. Then the mask slid back into place. What are you talking about? Diane. You know that's not true. I was with you the whole time. I called the ambulance. I stayed with you in the hospital. Diane looked between us. Her face was pale. Celeste. That's enough. You don't know what you're talking about. I know exactly what I'm talking about. Mom. I know that Evelyn was the only person in the room when you went into labor. I know that the ambulance took 17 minutes to arrive, even though the hospital is 7 minutes away. I know that Evelyn made that call from a cell phone that was later found to have been tampered with. I know that the baby. Stop. Diane's voice was sharp. Just stop. I stopped. I'd pushed too far. Diane wasn't ready to hear this. She might never be ready. But I had to plant the seed. I had to make her start questioning everything. Evelyn seized the opening. Diane. I think Celeste needs professional help. This isn't normal. These delusions. She's not delusional. Richard said from the doorway of his study. His phone was still in his hand. His face was gray. The bank confirmed everything. Every single transaction. Every forged signature. Every fake account. Evelyn's composure cracked. Just a little. Richard. I can explain. Can you explain the $3 million? Richard walked toward her. He wasn't a violent man. But he looked like he wanted to be. Can you explain the offshore accounts? Can you explain why Marcus Webb's name keeps appearing in every single document? Marcus is your friend. Evelyn said quickly. He's been helping you with investments. You asked him to. I never asked Marcus for anything. Richard was shouting now. I cut Marcus out of my life 10 years ago. You were the one who brought him back. You were the one who said he'd changed. You were the one who pushed me to trust him again. Evelyn backed away from the door. Sasha was crying openly now. Big heaving sobs that shook her small body. Please. Sasha whispered. Please don't hurt my mom. No one was going to hurt anyone. But Sasha knew that. Sasha was playing her part. The frightened child. The innocent victim. The collateral damage in a conflict she didn't understand. She learned from the best. Call the police. Richard said to Diane. Diane didn't move. Richard, maybe we should call the police. Diane pulled out her phone. Evelyn watched her with blank eyes. She wasn't panicking. She wasn't begging. She was thinking, calculating, trying to figure out how to turn this situation to her advantage. The police arrived 10 minutes later. 2 officers, a man and a woman, both in their 30s, both with the tired expression of people who'd seen too much and been paid too little. They listened to Richard's explanation, took notes, and then turned to Evelyn. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us." Evelyn nodded. She looked at Diane. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "I'm so sorry for all of this." Diane almost believed her. I could see it in her face. The urge to forgive, to forget, to go back to the way things were before everything fell apart. Then Evelyn looked at me. "You think you've won, Celeste, but you don't know anything. You're just a child playing grown up games." I met her eyes. "I know enough." She smiled. That smile. "Do you know about the document your father signed? The one that gives me partnership rights in the family holding company." Richard froze. "What document?" "The one from 3 years ago," Evelyn said. "After your car accident. You were on so many painkillers. Richard, you could barely sign your own name. But you signed that document. I have it in a safety deposit box. Witnessed. Notarized. Legally binding." "That's not possible," Richard said. "I would remember." "You don't remember anything from those 6 weeks. The doctors said it was the medication. But I remember. I remember sitting by your bed, holding your hand, helping you get better. And I remember you signing that document because you trusted me, because I was the only one who was there for you." Diane's phone slipped from her fingers. "Evelyn, what did you do?" "I protected myself." Evelyn's voice was calm. "Reasonable. I knew that someday your family would turn on me. They always do. The rich protect their own, and the poor get thrown to the wolves. So I made sure I had something to hold on to." The police officers exchanged glances. The woman officer stepped forward. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us now." "I'm coming," Evelyn said. "But this isn't over. You understand that, don't you?" "Richard, this isn't over." She walked to the police car with her head held high. Sasha followed, still crying, still playing her part. The officers put them in the back seat and drove away. Diane collapsed onto the couch. Richard stood in the middle of the room, staring at nothing. I sat down next to my mother and put my arm around her. "We're going to be okay," I said. I wasn't sure if I believed it, but I needed her to believe it. I needed all of us to believe it. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You should have stayed dead." I deleted it. Then I went upstairs to plan my next move. The document was real. Richard spent the next 48 hours trying to prove it wasn't. He called lawyers. He called forensic document examiners. He called the hospital where he'd been treated after the accident, demanding records, demanding to know who had visited him, demanding to know how Evelyn had gotten access to him when he was too drugged to know what he was signing. None of it mattered. The signature was his. The notary was real. An old woman named Helen Kress, who'd been notarizing documents in Boston for 40 years and had no reason to lie about what she'd witnessed. She remembered Evelyn. Remembered her being very kind, very concerned, very careful to make sure everything was done properly. The gentleman was asleep when I arrived. Helen told the lawyer over speakerphone. The lady woke him up, helped him sit forward, and guided his hand to the signature line. He signed without opening his eyes. I asked if he understood what he was signing, and the lady said he'd already reviewed the document and approved it. He nodded. That was enough for me. I listened from the hallway. Richard's lawyer, a sharp woman named Maria Chen who'd been with the family for 20 years, was explaining that the document would be difficult to challenge in court. The signature is authentic, Maria said. The notary witnessed it. Even if Mr. Vanderbilt was under the influence of medication, we would need to prove that Ms. Webb knowingly took advantage of his condition. That's a high bar. What about the fact that he was unconscious? Richard shouted. He wasn't unconscious. The notary said he was asleep, but he woke up and signed. That's going to be a problem. I walked into the study. What does the document actually give her? Maria looked at me. She'd known me since I was born. She'd watched me grow up. But she didn't know how to look at me now. None of them did. Limited partnership rights in Vanderbilt Holdings, Maria said. She can't control the company, but she has a claim on a portion of the profits. Approximately 15%. 15%. Of everything. Every investment. Every property. Every asset the family owned. 15% of a fortune that had taken 4 generations to build. She planned this. I said. The accident. The medication. The timing. She planned every piece of it. Richard slammed his fist on the desk. I know she planned it. That doesn't help me stop her. Then we don't stop her. I said. We beat her. Maria raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? We don't challenge the document. We accept it. We let her think she's won. And then we take away everything she's trying to steal. That's not how partnership rights work. Celeste. She's entitled to 15% of the profits regardless of what we do. Not if there are no profits. Richard stared at me. You want to tank the company. I want to restructure it. Move assets. Change the way profits are calculated. Make it so that 15% of nothing is nothing. It'll take time. It'll take lawyers and accountants and a lot of creative thinking. But it's possible. Maria was nodding slowly. It's possible. She agreed. But it's also risky. If Ms. Webb catches on, she could sue for bad faith. We'd be opening ourselves up to a whole different set of problems. She won't catch on, I said, because she'll be in jail. Richard leaned back in his chair. You're very sure of yourself. I'm sure of the evidence. I pulled out my phone and opened the folder of documents I'd been compiling. Evelyn didn't just forge your signature on the partnership agreement. She's been forging checks, credit card applications, loan documents. She's been running a massive fraud operation for 15 years. That's not a civil matter. That's criminal. Maria took my phone and scrolled through the documents. Her eyes got wider with each page. Celeste, where did you get these? I found them. These documents go back years. Some of them are from before you were born. I'm a good researcher. Maria looked at Richard. Richard looked at me. Neither of them believed me. But neither of them could explain what I'd done. Let's focus on the problem at hand. I said. Evelyn is out on bail. She's back in her apartment with Sasha. She has access to the partnership agreement and she knows how to use it. What's our next move? Richard rubbed his face. We need to talk to Marcus. He's the key to all of this. Marcus is the key to nothing. I said. He's a puppet. Evelyn pulls the strings. You don't know Marcus like I do. He's dangerous. Celeste. He's always been dangerous. I knew how dangerous Marcus was. I knew because he'd killed me. But I couldn't tell Richard that. He'd think I was crazy. He already thought I was crazy. Then we'd deal with Marcus too. I said. One at a time. My phone buzzed. Another text from an unknown number. Ask your mother about the baby. I deleted it. But the words stayed in my head. That night, I found Diane in the garden. She was sitting on the bench where she used to read to me when I was little. The roses were dead. Evelyn had convinced her to rip them out 3 years ago, replacing them with expensive landscaping that required constant maintenance and cost a fortune. Mom, I said, sitting down next to her. Can I ask you something? She didn't look at me. You can ask. The baby? The one you lost. What happened? Diane was quiet for a long time. The garden was dark. The only light came from the kitchen windows, where the new housekeeper, a temporary hire, someone Evelyn hadn't recommended, was cleaning up after dinner. I was 7 months pregnant, Diane said finally. It was a boy. We were going to name him Richard Jr. I went into labor early. No warning. No explanation. Just pain. Terrible pain. Where was Dad? Away. Business trip. I was alone with Evelyn. She called the ambulance. She stayed with me until they came. She held my hand. And the baby. He didn't survive. The doctors said there was nothing anyone could have done. Sometimes these things just happen. I thought about what Evelyn had said. I made sure the baby didn't survive. Not I'm sorry the baby didn't survive. Made sure. Mom, did Evelyn ever have access to your medication? Your prenatal vitamins? Anything you were taking during the pregnancy? Diane turned to look at me. What are you asking? I'm asking if Evelyn could have caused the miscarriage. That's insane. Why would she do that? Because if you lost the baby, you would be vulnerable. You would need her. You would trust her even more. And she would have more access to you. More control over you. More influence over every decision you made. Diane stood up. I can't do this. I can't sit here and listen to you accuse Evelyn of murdering my son. I'm not accusing her of murder. I'm asking if it's possible. Nothing is possible. The doctors said. Doctors make mistakes. Especially when they're given false information. Especially when someone has a reason to lie. Diane walked toward the house. She was crying. I didn't follow her. I'd pushed too hard again. But I couldn't stop pushing. Not when I knew what Evelyn was capable of. Not when I knew what was coming. My phone buzzed. She doesn't know about Marcus. About any of it. But you do. Don't you? Celeste. You know everything. I typed back, who is this? Someone who's been watching you for a very long time. Show yourself. Soon. Very soon. In the meantime, keep digging. You haven't found the really interesting stuff yet. I stared at the screen. The number was untraceable. I'd already tried. The messages came from different servers every time, bouncing around the world like a pinball before landing on my phone. Someone was playing with me. Someone who knew things they shouldn't know. Someone who'd been watching me across 2 lifetimes. Someone who wasn't Evelyn. I went inside and locked every door. The first body showed up on a Tuesday. Not a real body. A metaphorical one. But it felt just as heavy. I found it in Richard's study, hidden in a drawer behind his desk. A DNA test. Not the kind you buy at the drugstore. The kind you get from a real lab. With chain of custody forms and notarized signatures and results that meant something. The test compared my DNA to a sample from the baby Diane had lost. The baby who was supposed to have died in the womb. The baby whose remains had been cremated before anyone could ask questions. The results were clear. The baby and I shared mitochondrial DNA, which meant the baby was my biological sibling, which meant the baby hadn't died. Or if he had died, he'd been alive long enough to leave a DNA sample somewhere. A blood test. A cheek swab. Something that had been preserved and stored and waited for someone to find. I sat down in Richard's chair. My hands were shaking. The document in front of me was dated 8 years ago. When I was 6. When the baby would have been 6 too. If he'd lived. The lab was in New York. The requesting party was listed as Webb. Evelyn. Evelyn had known. She'd known for 8 years that the baby didn't die. She'd known where he was. Maybe she'd even known who he was. The second document was worse. It was a letter. Handwritten. Addressed to someone named M. The handwriting was Evelyn's. I'd seen it enough times to recognize the sharp loops and jagged edges. The daughter is secure. The mother suspects nothing. The father is blind. But the heir, your son, grows restless. He wants to meet his sister. He wants to know why he was hidden. He wants to understand why he can't have the life she has. Send more money or I tell the girl everything about her real father. Her real father. Not Richard. I read the sentence again. And again. And again. The words didn't change. They stayed there on the page. Black ink on white paper. Burning themselves into my brain. Marcus. It had to be Marcus. Marcus Webb. Diane's ex. Boyfriend. The man who'd never gotten over her. The man who'd been circling the Vanderbilt family for decades like a shark scenting blood. Marcus was my biological father. Which meant Richard wasn't. Which meant the baby Diane lost. The heir. The boy Evelyn called your son. Was Marcus's child too. My half-brother. Alive somewhere. Growing restless. Wanting to meet me. I heard footsteps in the hallway. Richard. I shoved the documents back into the drawer and wiped my eyes. I didn't have time to fall apart. I needed answers. Celeste. What are you doing in here? Richard stood in the doorway. He looked tired. Older than he'd looked this morning. The past few days had aged him. Looking for a book. I said. I didn't find it. He didn't believe me. But he didn't push. He sat down on the couch across from the desk and put his head in his hands. Your mother wants to drop the charges. What? She says Evelyn has been through enough. She says we should just cut ties and move on. She says she can't handle a trial. She can't handle Evelyn stealing 15% of everything we own either. 15% is better than nothing. If we fight her in court, we could lose everything. We won't lose. You don't know that. I do know that. I stood up. I know that Evelyn is a criminal. I know that the evidence against her is overwhelming. I know that the only way she wins is if we give up. Richard looked at me. Really looked at me. Who are you? I'm your daughter. My daughter is 14 years old. She likes horses and mystery novels, and she's never raised her voice in her entire life. You're not her. I wanted to tell him the truth. I wanted to explain that I was his daughter. Just older. Just more experienced. Just more aware of how cruel the world could be. But the words wouldn't come. How do you tell your father that you've already lived this life once before? How do you explain that you died and came back and now you're trying to save everyone? I'm still your daughter. I said. I've just woken up. Richard didn't understand. But he nodded anyway. He was too tired to fight. The phone rang. It was Maria Chin. She'd found something. Celeste. I need you to look at something. I'm sending it to your phone now. The document appeared a moment later. It was a birth certificate. For a boy named Caleb Marcus Webb. Born 2 years ago. Mother, Diane Vanderbilt. Father, Marcus Webb. No, that wasn't possible. Diane would never have named Marcus as the father on a birth certificate. She would never have admitted that Richard wasn't. Keep reading, Maria said. I kept reading. The birth certificate was fake. I could tell from the font, the formatting, the missing seals. But it had been filed with the state. It had been accepted. It had been used to create a legal identity for a child who didn't exist. The child existed. I knew that now. But the birth certificate wasn't real. Evelyn had created it to give the boy a name. A history. A place in the world. She'd created it so she could control him. So she could threaten Diane with exposure. So she could hold the truth over everyone's heads like a sword. There's more, Maria said. There's a trust fund. Set up in Caleb's name. Funded with money from your family's accounts. Over $2 million. $2 million. That's just what we've found so far. There could be more. I closed my eyes. $2 million. Stolen from my family. Given to a brother I'd never met. Managed by a woman who'd spent her whole life trying to destroy us. Where is he? I asked. Where's Caleb? We don't know. The trust fund was managed through a shell company. The address on file is a P.O. box in Delaware. The phone number is disconnected. So he could be anywhere. Anywhere. I hung up. Richard was watching me with wide eyes. "What is it?" he asked. I opened the drawer and pulled out the documents. The DNA test, the letter, the birth certificate. I laid them on the desk in front of him. "Read these," I said, "and then tell me if you still want to drop the charges." Richard read. His face went through all the stages. Confusion, denial, anger, grief. When he finished, he looked up at me with tears in his eyes. "I'm not your father." "I don't know. The DNA test doesn't say. It only compares me to the baby." "But the letter." His voice cracked. "The letter says her real father. She's talking about you. About your real father. Maybe. Or maybe she's lying. She's good at lying." Richard stood up. He was shaking. "I need to talk to your mother." "Dad, don't call me that. Not right now. I need to. I need to think." He walked out. I didn't follow him. Some conversations needed to happen without an audience. My phone buzzed. "He's taking it well. All things considered." I typed back, "Who are you?" "You know who I am." "I don't know anything." "You know more than you're telling. Just like me." I threw my phone across the room. It hit the wall and shattered. I didn't care. I was tired of the games. Tired of the messages. Tired of not knowing who was watching me. Who was playing with me. Who was waiting in the shadows for me to make a mistake. I picked up the pieces of my phone and put them in the trash. Then I went downstairs to find my mother. Diane was in the kitchen, drinking tea. She looked up when I walked in. Her eyes were red. She'd been crying. "Your father told me," she said. "About the baby. About everything. The DNA test. The letter. The birth certificate." "Mom, I didn't want you to find out like this." "Then when did you want me to find out?" "Next week. Next year. Never." I sat down across from her. "I wanted to be sure before I told you. I didn't want to hurt you with something that might not be true. But it is true. The baby didn't die. He's alive. He's out there somewhere. And I never knew. I never even looked for him because I thought he was dead. Evelyn made you think that. She made everyone think that." Diane put down her cup. "She was my friend. She held my hand. She told me it wasn't my fault. It wasn't your fault. None of this was your fault. But I trusted her. I loved her. I gave her access to my home, my family, my children. I gave her everything she needed to destroy us." I reached across the table and took her hand. "We're not destroyed yet." She squeezed my fingers. "You're so strong." "I don't know where you get it." "From dying," I thought. "From losing everything and having to fight for every single thing I got back." But I didn't say that. I just held her hand and let her cry. The next morning, I woke up to screaming. It was Sasha. She was standing in our backyard, her face covered in blood, her clothes torn. She was screaming my name. "Celeste. Celeste. Help me." I ran outside. Diane was right behind me. Richard was on the phone with the police before I reached the door. Sasha collapsed into my arms. She was shaking. The blood wasn't hers. I could see that now. It was someone else's. Someone who'd been hurt badly enough to bleed a lot. "Who did this to you?" I asked. "Mom." Sasha sobbed. "Mom went crazy. She said you'd taken everything. She said she had nothing left to lose. She said she was going to make you pay." "Where is she now?" "I don't know. She took the car. She said she was going to." Sasha's breath hitched. "She said she was going to the cabin. The one in the Adirondacks. She said she was going to wait for you there." The Adirondacks. The cabin Evelyn had bought under a fake name. The cabin she'd bragged about in my past life. Thinking I wasn't paying attention. "I know where it is," I said. Richard grabbed my arm. "You're not going anywhere. Let the police handle this. The police don't know the area. They'll take hours to find it. I can be there in 3. You're 14 years old. I'm the only one who knows how to find her." Richard looked at Diane. Diane looked at Sasha. Sasha looked at me with those wide, innocent eyes. Please, Sasha whispered. Please don't let her hurt anyone else. I didn't believe Sasha. I'd never believe Sasha again. But I needed to go to that cabin. I needed to end this. I needed to look Evelyn in the eye and tell her that I knew everything. About the money. About the baby. About Marcus. About the car that had killed me in another life. I took Richard's car keys from the hook by the door. I'll be back, I said. Celeste. Before sunset. I promise. I drove. The Range Rover was faster than I expected. I pushed it to 90 on the highway, slowing down only when I saw police cruisers or speed traps. The Adirondacks were 3 hours away. I made it in 2.5. The cabin was hidden at the end of a long dirt road, surrounded by trees. No neighbors. No cell service. No one to hear screams. Perfect place for a trap. I parked the car a quarter mile away and walked the rest of the distance. The tire iron from the trunk felt heavy in my hand. I didn't want to use it, but I would if I had to. The cabin door was open. I stepped inside. Evelyn was sitting on a chair in the middle of the room. She wasn't tied up. She wasn't bleeding. She was drinking a glass of wine and smiling at me like I was exactly where she wanted me to be. Hello, Celeste, she said. I was wondering when you'd get here. Where's Sasha? On her way. She had a little detour to make first. Something about a message for your mother. My blood went cold. What message? Oh, nothing important. Just the truth. About Marcus. About the baby. About who you really are. I raised the tire iron. You're going to jail, Evelyn. For the rest of your life. Maybe, but not before I take everything from you. Everything I should have had from the beginning. She stood up. She wasn't afraid of me. She should have been. You want to know about your real father? Celeste. His name is Marcus Webb. He's been in love with your mother since they were in college. He's been waiting for her to leave Richard for 20 years. And now that Richard knows the truth. Maybe she will. Richard is my father. He's the only father I've ever known. Richard is a fool. He's been a fool since the day he met your mother. And you. You're just a foolish girl playing games she doesn't understand. I understand everything. No, you don't. You don't understand that Marcus has been planning this for decades. You don't understand that the accident that killed you in your other life wasn't an accident. You don't understand that you're not supposed to be here. I froze. What did you say? Evelyn smiled. You heard me. You think you're the only one who remembers. You think you're the only one who came back. The room spun. You remember too. I remember everything. The trial. The conviction. The way you fell apart after we took everything. The way you died. Alone. Broke. Forgotten. I remember watching it happen. I remember thinking it was finally over. Then how am I here? I don't know. And I don't care. All I know is that this time, I'm not going to lose. This time, I'm going to make sure you stay dead. She pulled a knife from behind her back. Not a prop this time. A real knife. The blade caught the light and glinted. You're going to kill me? I asked. If I have to. Then why are you telling me all of this? Why not just do it? Because I want you to know. I want you to understand that you didn't win. You just delayed the inevitable. I looked at the knife. I looked at Evelyn's face. I looked at the door behind her, where a shadow was moving. Evelyn, I said, you're not the only one who planned ahead. The door burst open. Police officers flooded the room. Evelyn spun, knife raised. But she was too slow. They tackled her to the ground, disarmed her, cuffed her. I'd called them from the car. The police station in the nearest town had GPS coordinates for every cabin in the area. They'd been waiting for my signal. Evelyn screamed as they dragged her out. This isn't over. Do you hear me? This isn't over. I watched her go. Then I sat down on the chair she'd been sitting in and put my head in my hands. My phone buzzed. I'd gotten a new one before I left. Same number. Same contacts. Same unknown texter. Good job. But you're not done yet. What do you want from me? The truth. All of it. And you're going to find it whether you want to or not. I threw the phone against the wall. It didn't break. Cheap case. I picked it up and walked outside into the sunlight. Sasha was waiting for me when I got home. Not at the house. On the road. Half a mile from the driveway. She was standing in the middle of the asphalt. Arms crossed. Face expressionless. The blood was gone. The tears were gone. The scared little girl act was gone. You took your time, she said. I stopped the car. Got out. Left the engine running. Where's my mother? Inside. Waiting for you. She wants to talk. No games. Sasha. Where is she? Sasha smiled. It was Evelyn's smile. Cold. Calculating. Cruel. She's fine. For now. But she won't be fine if you don't listen to what I have to say. Say it. My mother didn't act alone. You know that. You've known it since the beginning. Marcus Webb is the brains behind everything. He's the one who planned the embezzlement. He's the one who forged the documents. He's the one who's been pulling the strings for 20 years. Then why is your mother in jail? Because Marcus let her take the fall. He always lets someone else take the fall. That's how he's survived this long. What does that have to do with me? Sasha took a step closer. Marcus wants to meet you. He's been waiting for this moment for a long time. He says you're the key to everything. The key to what? To the money. To the company. To the life he should have had. He says if you cooperate, he'll let your family keep some of what's left. If you don't, she shrugged. He'll take it all. And he'll make sure you watch. I looked at Sasha. Really looked at her. She was 14 years old. Same as me. But her eyes were older. Colder. She'd been raised in a world of lies and manipulation. And she'd learned to play the game better than anyone. Where is he? I asked. New York. He has a penthouse overlooking Central Park. He's been there for years. Watching. Waiting. Planning. And you expect me to just walk in and say hello? I expect you to do what's best for your family. Marcus is offering you a deal. Hear him out. That's all. I got back in the car. Sasha didn't move. I'll think about it. I said. Don't think too long. Marcus isn't patient. She walked away. I watched her disappear into the trees. Then I drove home. Diane was in the living room. She was pale, but she was alive. She was holding a piece of paper in her hand. Celeste, she said. What is this? I took the paper. It was a letter. Handwritten. From Marcus. My dearest Diane. It read, I've waited 22 years to tell you the truth. Our son is alive. He's been living with me in New York. Safe and loved and waiting for the day when we could finally be a family. Please don't be angry. Everything I did for you. For us. For the life we should have had together. Come to New York. Bring Celeste. I'll explain everything. I promise you won't regret it. Diane was crying. Our son. He's saying Caleb is our son. Yours and mine. Mom. Answer me. Is Marcus Webb my son's father? I wanted to lie. I wanted to protect her from the truth. But I couldn't. Not anymore. Yes, I said. Marcus is Caleb's father. Diane sank onto the couch. And you? Is Marcus your father too? I don't know. The DNA test didn't say. But the letter, Evelyn's letter, said her real father. She was talking about me. So it's possible. It's possible that Marcus is your father. Possible. Not certain. Diane buried her face in her hands. I don't understand any of this. How did I not know? How did I not see what was happening? Because Evelyn was good at hiding it. She was good at making sure you never asked questions. Your father, Richard. He's not speaking to me. He's not speaking to anyone. He's locked himself in his study and he won't come out. I sat down next to her. He's scared. He's scared of losing you. He's scared of losing me. He's scared of finding out that everything he thought was true is a lie. Are you scared? Terrified. We sat there for a while, holding each other. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Richard's number. But the words weren't his. Come home, daughter. It's time we met properly. And don't bother calling the police. Your mother's life depends on your discretion. Attached was a photo of Diane, unconscious, tied to a chair in our own living room. I looked at the couch. Diane was sitting right next to me, awake, untied, alive. The photo was a fake, a threat, a warning. Marcus wasn't in New York. He was here, in our house, watching us. Mom, I said quietly, we need to leave. Right now. Why? Because Marcus is here. Diane's face went white. What? Don't look around. Don't react. Just stand up and walk toward the back door. We stood up. We walked. We didn't run. Running would trigger whatever trap Marcus had set. The back door was locked. I fumbled with the deadbolt. My hands were shaking. Behind us, I heard footsteps in the hallway. Slow, deliberate, coming closer. The deadbolt clicked. I pulled Diane through the door and slammed it shut behind us. We ran. We didn't get far. Marcus was faster than I expected. He caught us in the garden, between the dead rose bushes and the fountain Evelyn had insisted on installing. He was alone. No weapons that I could see. But he didn't need weapons. He had something worse. Hello, Diane, he said. It's been a long time. Diane froze. Her hand tightened around mine. Let us go. Marcus. I can't do that. We have so much to talk about. So much to catch up on. There's nothing to talk about. Really? Marcus smiled. It was a nice smile. Friendly. Trustworthy. The kind of smile that had convinced Richard to invest in bad deals. That had convinced Diane to let him back into her life. That had convinced everyone that he was just a harmless old friend. Really? Marcus took a step closer. What about our son? Don't you want to talk about him? Diane flinched. Caleb is not your son. He is. The DNA test proved it. I have the results in my pocket if you want to see them. I don't want to see anything. I want you to leave us alone. I can't do that either. You see, I've invested a lot in this family. Time, money, energy. I've been patient. I've been careful. But my patience is running out. I stepped in front of Diane. What do you want? Marcus. He looked at me. His eyes were cold. I want what's mine. The money. The company. The recognition I deserve. I've been in the shadows for too long. It's time I stepped into the light. The money isn't yours. It's never been yours. It should have been. Your mother was supposed to marry me. Instead, she married Richard Vanderbilt, a man who couldn't make a decision without consulting his accountant, a man who inherited everything and earned nothing. Richard is worth 10 of you. Marcus laughed. Richard is a coward. He's hiding in his study right now, too afraid to face me, too afraid to face the truth. What truth? The truth that I'm your father, Celeste. The truth that Diane has been lying to your whole life. The truth that everything you thought you knew is wrong. I looked at Diane. She was crying, but she wasn't denying it. Mom, it's true. Diane whispered. Marcus is your father. I didn't know. Not at first. I was drugged. Evelyn drugged me and Marcus. She couldn't finish. I didn't need her to finish. I understood. Evelyn had drugged Diane. And Marcus had raped her. And 9 months later, I was born. I'm sorry, Diane said. I'm so sorry. I turned back to Marcus. You're going to jail. For the rest of your life. Am I? He pulled a gun from his jacket. I don't think so. The gun was small. Black. Easy to hide. Easy to use. You're going to die. Celeste. Just like you died before. And this time. There won't be any second chances. You killed me before. I arranged it. The car. The driver. The timing. I wanted to make sure you couldn't testify at my trial. You were the only witness who could put me away. But I'm here now. Not for long. He raised the gun. I didn't move. I couldn't move. I was frozen. Just like I'd been frozen in that parking lot. Just like I'd been frozen when the car came out of nowhere and… Marcus. Richard's voice. He was standing at the back door. His own gun in his hand. Put it down. Richard said. Marcus laughed. You're not going to shoot me. Richard. You've never shot anyone in your life. There's a first time for everything. Marcus looked at Richard. Richard looked at Marcus. Neither of them blinked. Then Marcus turned the gun on Diane. Put it down. Marcus said. Or I'll kill her. Richard's hand shook. Let her go. Marcus. This is between you and me. This has always been between you and me. Diane was just the prize. I'm not a prize. Diane said. Her voice was steady. I'm a person. And I'm choosing Richard. I've always chosen Richard. Marcus's face twisted. You should have chosen me. I should have chosen a lot of things. But I didn't. And I'm not going to let you hurt my family. Marcus raised the gun. Richard fired. The sound was deafening. Marcus fell. The gun clattered to the ground. Blood spread across his chest. Dark red against his white shirt. Call an ambulance. Richard said. I didn't move. Celeste. Call an ambulance. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. Marcus was still breathing. His eyes were open. He was looking at me. See you soon. He whispered. Then he closed his eyes. Marcus didn't die. The bullet missed his heart by 2 inches. He was in surgery for 6 hours. In the ICU for 3 days. In a regular room for 2 weeks. Then he was transferred to a holding cell at the county jail, where he waited for his trial. The trial took 6 months. I testified for 3 days. I told the jury everything. The embezzlement. The forgery. The kidnapping. The attempted murder. I didn't tell them about the past life. Some truths are too strange to share, even in a courtroom. But I told them enough. I told them about the cabin. About the gun. About the way Marcus had smiled when he said he'd killed me before. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. They came back with guilty verdicts on all counts. Conspiracy. Embezzlement. Kidnapping. Attempted murder. The judge sentenced Marcus to life in prison without parole. Evelyn and Sasha were tried separately. Evelyn was convicted of fraud, forgery, and accessory to kidnapping. She got 25 years. Sasha was convicted as a juvenile. The judge decided she'd been manipulated by her mother, that she wasn't fully responsible for her actions. She was sent to a juvenile detention facility until she turned 18, then released on probation. I watched them all walk away in handcuffs. I watched the doors close behind them. I watched the cameras flash and the reporter shout and the world move on to the next story. Then I went home. Diane was in the garden. She'd replanted the roses. They were small, but they were growing. Mom, I said, it's over. She looked up at me. Is it? I think so. She stood up and hugged me. I hugged her back. We stood there for a long time, holding each other in the sunlight. Richard came out a few minutes later. He was holding a piece of paper. I've been thinking, he said, about what Marcus said, about me not being your real father. Richard, let me finish. He took a deep breath. I don't care about biology. I don't care about DNA. I raised you. I loved you. I'm your father. That's never going to change. I started crying. I didn't mean to. The tears just came. I love you too, Dad. He hugged me. Diane hugged both of us. The three of us stood there in the garden, surrounded by roses. And for the first time in months, I felt safe. Epilogue. 10 years later, I am 20. For years old. I run Vanderbilt Holdings, the largest private investment firm on the East Coast. My mother runs the foundation we started in Caleb's name. The son she lost. The son she never got to raise. The son who's still out there somewhere, waiting to be found. I haven't found him yet, but I'm looking. I'll never stop looking. Richard retired last year. He spends his days gardening and golfing and pretending he doesn't miss the office. Diane teases him about it. They're happy. After everything. They're still happy. I dream about the other timeline sometimes. The one where I died. In the dreams. I'm back in that parking lot, watching the car come toward me, unable to move. I always wake up before it hits. I always wake up gasping, covered in sweat, heart pounding. Then I look around my bedroom, my real bedroom, in my real house, with my real life, and I breathe. One night, I get a text from an unknown number. I'm still here. I delete it. I've been getting messages like this for years. They never lead anywhere. They're probably just some sick joke. Someone who read about the trial and wants to mess with me. But sometimes I wonder. Sometimes I think about Marcus's last words. See you soon. Sometimes I think about Sasha, released from juvenile detention, free to go wherever she wants. Sometimes I think about Caleb, the brother I've never met. The brother who might hate me for putting his father in prison. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if Marcus will ever get out. If Evelyn will ever stop scheming. If Sasha will ever stop blaming me for her mother's choices. But I know one thing, I'm not afraid anymore. I'm Celeste Vanderbilt. I've died once. I've come back. I've fought and won and lost and fought again. And I'm not done yet. The first time I saw Caleb, I was standing in line for coffee. It was a Tuesday. Rainy. The kind of gray Boston morning that made everyone miserable and everyone's hair frizzy. I was 20. For years old. Running $1 billion company. And I was waiting behind a college student who couldn't decide between oat milk and almond milk. Then I looked up. And he was there. Across the street. Leaning against a brick wall. Hood up. Hands in his pockets. Watching me. I knew him immediately. Not because I'd ever seen his face before. I hadn't. Not because someone had shown me a picture. No one had. I knew him the way you know your own reflection in a dark window. The same bone structure. The same eyes. The same way of standing that my mother had captured in a dozen photographs of herself from college. Caleb. My brother. I pushed past the college student and ran across the street. Cars honked. Someone shouted. I didn't care. He was gone. The brick wall was empty. The sidewalk was empty. The whole street was empty except for the rain and the traffic and my own pounding heart. I stood there for a long time. Getting wet. Getting cold. Getting angry. Then I went back to my office and made some calls. Maria. I said when my lawyer picked up. I need you to find someone for me. Who? My brother. Silence. Then, Celeste. We've been looking for Caleb for 10 years. Every private investigator in the country has his file. He doesn't want to be found. Find him anyway. Even if I could. I don't care about the cost. I don't care about the legal hurdles. I don't care about anything except finding him. Maria sighed. I'll make some calls. She made the calls. Nothing came back. The PIs had exhausted every lead years ago. Caleb's trust fund had been emptied when he turned 18. $2 million. Withdrawn in cash over the course of a week. No trace of where it went. His last known address was a homeless shelter in Brooklyn. His last known sighting was 3 years ago, at a gas station in Ohio, buying cigarettes and a lottery ticket. He was a ghost. A ghost who looked like me. A ghost who watched me from across the street and disappeared before I could reach him. That night, I dreamed of the parking lot again. The car. The impact. The darkness. But this time, something was different. This time, when I woke up gasping, there was someone standing at the foot of my bed. Hello. Celeste. Sasha. She was older now. 24. Same as me. The teenager who'd attacked me with scissors and lied to police and helped her mother steal my family's money had grown into a woman. A beautiful woman. I realized. Dark hair. Dark eyes. The same sharp features that had made her look delicate at 14 now made her look dangerous. How did you get in here? Your security is terrible. You should fire them. I asked you a question. Sasha smiled. It wasn't Evelyn's smile anymore. It was something else. Something harder. Something that had been through prison and probation and whatever came after. I have information, she said. About your brother. My blood went cold. What about him? Marcus has been in contact with him. From prison. Letters. Phone calls. Everything we thought we'd cut off. Marcus found a way around. That's not possible. The prison monitors all communications. Do they? Sasha pulled out her phone and showed me a screenshot. A letter. Handwritten. Scanned and sent as an email attachment. The handwriting was Marcus's. I'd seen it enough times in evidence files to recognize the sharp, angry script. Caleb. The money is waiting. The girl is waiting. The life you were promised is waiting. Don't let me down. The email address was untraceable. The server was overseas. The whole thing was designed to disappear the moment someone looked too closely. Where did you get this? I have sources. People who owe me favors. People who hate Marcus more than they hate me. And you're just giving this to me out of the goodness of your heart. Sasha's smile faded. I'm giving it to you because Marcus promised me something. Something he never delivered. He said if I helped him, he'd make sure I never went to prison. He lied. I spent 3 years in juvie and 5 years on probation. I lost everything. You lost everything because you helped your mother steal from my family. I lost everything because I was a child who didn't know any better. I'm not a child anymore. I looked at her. Really looked. She wasn't lying. I'd spent enough time around liars to know the difference. What do you want? To help you. To stop Marcus. To make sure he never gets out of prison. And then what? Then I disappear. You never see me again. That's the deal. I thought about it. I thought about all the ways this could be a trap. All the ways Sasha could be playing me. The way her mother had played my mother. The way Marcus had played everyone. But I also thought about Caleb. My brother. The boy who'd been stolen from my mother before he was born. The boy who'd been raised by Marcus Webb. The man who'd raped my mother and destroyed my family. The boy who might be standing across the street right now. Watching me. Trying to decide if I was worth trusting. Show me everything. I said. Sasha nodded. She sat down on the edge of my bed and pulled up file after file on her phone. Letters. Emails. Bank records. Phone logs. Everything Marcus had done in the past 10 years to stay connected to the outside world. To keep his schemes alive. To prepare for the day he might get out. He's not just after the money anymore. Sasha said. He wants revenge. On you. On your mother. On everyone who put him in prison. He's never getting out. He has a life sentence. Life sentences get overturned. Appeals get granted. People get paroled. Marcus has been working on his appeal for 10 years. He's got a new lawyer. A good one. Someone who specializes in wrongful conviction cases. Wrongful conviction. He was caught red-handed. He's claiming the evidence was planted. That you fabricated the documents. That the whole case was a setup. That's insane. That's Marcus. He'd rather rewrite history than admit he lost. I stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the city below. Somewhere out there, my brother was watching. Somewhere out there, Marcus was plotting. Somewhere out there, everything I'd fought for was at risk again. Stay here, I said to Sasha. I need to make some calls. Where would I go? I didn't answer. I walked into my home office and closed the door. The first call was to Maria Chen. I need you to look into Marcus Webb's appeal. Find out who his new lawyer is. Find out what evidence they're planning to present. Find out everything. Celeste. I've been following this case for 10 years. There's nothing new. There is now. Sasha just showed me files that prove Marcus has been communicating with people outside prison. That's a violation of his parole conditions. Sasha. As in Evelyn's daughter Sasha. The same. Celeste. You can't trust her. I don't trust her. I trust the evidence she showed me. Check it yourself. Maria was quiet for a moment. I'll look into it. The second call was to Diane. Mom, I need to tell you something. What's wrong? I saw Caleb. Today. In Boston. Silence. Then, are you sure? I'm sure. He looks like us. Like you. Like me. Did you talk to him? He disappeared before I could. More silence. When Diane spoke again, her voice was shaking. He's been watching you. All these years. Waiting for something. Waiting for what? I don't know. But we need to find out. We will. I promise. The third call was to Richard. Dad, I need you to come to Boston. Why? What's happening? Marcus is making a move. I don't know exactly what. But I need you here. I'll be on the next flight. I hung up, stared at the phone, stared at the wall, stared at the ceiling. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. You're getting closer. I typed back, who is this? Someone who wants to help. Then tell me who you are. Soon. Very soon. Keep watching. I threw the phone across the room. It bounced off the wall and landed on the carpet. Not broken. Never broken. I picked it up and went back to Sasha. Show me everything again. I said. From the beginning. She did. We stayed up all night. Going through files. Connecting dots. Building a timeline. By morning, I had a picture of Marcus's operation that was clearer than anything the FBI had ever put together. He had money. Lots of it. Hidden in accounts all over the world. He had people. A network of former associates. Disgruntled employees. People who owed him favors. He had a plan. An appeal. Followed by a release. Followed by a return to Boston. Followed by, he's going to try to kill you. Sasha said. That's the only thing that makes sense. He kills you. He inherits everything through Caleb. Caleb is his son. If you're dead, Caleb is the only living heir. Caleb isn't his son. Marcus isn't his father. The law doesn't care about biology. Marcus was listed on the birth certificate. Even though the birth certificate was fake, it was accepted by the state. Legally, Marcus is Caleb's father. And Caleb is Marcus's heir. Exactly. I thought about the $2 million. The cash withdrawals. The homeless shelter. The gas station in Ohio. Caleb doesn't want Marcus's money. I said, if he did, he wouldn't have emptied the trust fund in cash. He would have invested it. Grown it. Used it. Maybe he didn't know how. Maybe Marcus controlled everything. Or maybe Caleb is trying to disappear. Maybe he doesn't want anything to do with Marcus. Sasha shrugged. Maybe. Or maybe he's waiting for the right moment. The sun was rising. The rain had stopped. The city was waking up. Get some sleep. I said to Sasha. We have a long day ahead. Where am I supposed to sleep? Guest room. Third door on the left. Don't steal anything. Sasha smiled. I wouldn't dream of it. She left. I sat alone in my office, watching the light change, thinking about my brother. Somewhere out there. He was watching me too. Caleb came to me 3 days later. Not across the street this time. Not hidden in shadows. He walked into my office building. Past security. Past the front desk. Past my assistant. And sat down in the chair across from my desk like he owned the place. He was taller than me. 6'2", maybe. Broad shoulders. Dark hair that curled at the edges. Eyes that were exactly the same shade of green as Diane's. And exactly the same shade as mine. "You're not easy to find," he said. "You're not easy to find either." He smiled. It was a small smile. Tentative. Like he wasn't sure if he was allowed. "I've been watching you for a while. Trying to decide if I should introduce myself." "And what did you decide?" "I'm here. Aren't I?" I leaned back in my chair. Why now? Why not 10 years ago? Why not when we were kids? Because 10 years ago, I didn't know who you were. I mean, I knew you existed. Marcus told me about you. But he told me a lot of things. Most of them weren't true. What did he tell you? Caleb's smile faded. He told me your family abandoned me. That you knew about me and didn't care. That you were rich and selfish and you'd never want anything to do with someone like me. And you believed him. I was a kid. He was my father. Why wouldn't I believe him? Because he's a liar. I know that now. It took me a long time to figure it out. But I know. I looked at him. Really looked. He was nervous. His hands were shaking. His knee was bouncing under the desk. He wasn't here to threaten me. He wasn't here to demand money. He was here because he was scared and lonely, and he didn't know where else to go. "Why did you come to Boston?" I asked. "Because I wanted to see you. In person. Not through a window. Not from across the street. Face to face. You've been watching me for a while. Months. I moved here last spring. Got a job. Got an apartment. Nothing fancy. Just somewhere to be close. What kind of job? Dishwasher. At a restaurant in the North End. It's not much, but it pays the bills. A dishwasher. My brother, who was entitled to a share of $1 billion fortune, was washing dishes for minimum wage. You know you have money, right? Your trust fund. I emptied it. I know. Why? Because it was Marcus's money. He set up the trust. He controlled the investments. Every dollar in that account came from stealing from your family. I didn't want it. So you just gave away $2 million. Not gave away. Spent. Slowly. On things that mattered. A roof for a homeless shelter. Books for a school. Medicine for a clinic. I didn't keep a penny. I stared at him. You donated $2 million to charity. I donated $2 million to people who needed it more than I did. My brother. My mysterious ghost-like brother. Washed dishes for a living and gave away millions to strangers. "I think I like you," I said. Caleb laughed. It was a real laugh. Surprised and a little embarrassed. "I think I like you too." We talked for hours. About our childhoods. About our parents. About the trial. The prison sentence. The years that followed. Caleb told me about growing up with Marcus. The manipulation. The lies. The constant pressure to be something he wasn't. He wanted me to hate you. Caleb said. He wanted me to hate everyone. He said the Vanderbilts were the enemy. That they'd stolen everything from us. But you didn't hate us. I didn't know you. How could I hate someone I'd never met? And now, Caleb looked at me. Now I know you. And I don't hate you. I don't hate anyone. I'm just tired. Of what? Of running. Of hiding. Of not knowing who I am. You're Caleb Vanderbilt. That's who you are. I'm Caleb Webb. That's what my birth certificate says. Birth certificates can be changed. Caleb shook his head. It's not that simple. Marcus is still my legal father. Unless someone challenges the birth certificate in court. That's never going to change. Then we'll challenge it. You can't. The birth certificate was filed 22 years ago. The statute of limitations has expired. Nothing's impossible. Not when you have money and lawyers. Caleb smiled again. You really are a Vanderbilt. Is that a compliment? It's not an insult. I called Maria. She came to the office within the hour. She brought files and forms and a look on her face that said she'd been expecting this call for 10 years. Mr. Webb, she said, shaking Caleb's hand. I've been wanting to meet you for a very long time. It's Vanderbilt. Caleb said, if we're going to do this, I want to be a Vanderbilt. Maria looked at me. I nodded. Then let's get started. We spent the rest of the day working on the legal challenge. Maria explained the process. The filings. The hearings. The DNA evidence we would need to prove that Marcus wasn't Caleb's biological father. It would take months. Maybe years. But it was possible. You're sure about this? I asked Caleb as we were wrapping up. Once you're a Vanderbilt, you can't go back. Everything changes. Everything already changed the moment I walked into this building. He was right. Nothing would ever be the same. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. You found him. Good. Now keep him safe. I typed back, who are you? Someone who's been protecting you both for a very long time. Show yourself. I will. When the time is right. Until then. Watch your back. Marcus knows you found each other. He's not happy. I showed the messages to Caleb. Do you know who this is? He asked. No. But they've been texting me for years. Ever since the trial. They always seem to know what's happening before I do. Could it be someone inside Marcus's operation? I don't know. Maybe. Or someone inside the prison. A guard. A clerk. Someone who sees things. I thought about it. The messages had started coming shortly after Marcus was incarcerated. The timing was too perfect to be coincidence. Maria. I said, I need you to look into something. The prison where Marcus is held. I want a list of every employee who's worked there for the past 10 years. Guards. Administrators. Medical staff. Everyone. What am I looking for? Someone who might have reason to help us. Maria nodded. I'll get right on it. Caleb left that evening. He had to get back to his apartment. His job. His life. But he promised to come back. He promised to stay in touch. He promised that we would figure this out together. I watched him walk down the street. He looked back once, smiled, and disappeared into the crowd. My phone buzzed. You did good, Celeste. But the hard part is just beginning. I deleted the message and went home. Marcus's appeal was granted 6 weeks later. I got the news from Maria. Who got it from the court clerk? Who got it from the judge's chambers? Marcus Webb, convicted felon, sentenced to life in prison, had been granted a new trial based on new evidence that supposedly proved his original conviction was invalid. The new evidence was a witness, a woman named Patricia Holloway, who claimed she'd been the one to forge the documents, not Marcus. She said Marcus had been framed by Evelyn Webb, who was trying to protect herself by blaming an innocent man. Patricia Holloway was a ghost. No social media. No employment history. No fingerprints in any database. She appeared out of nowhere, gave her testimony, and disappeared. She's lying, I said to Maria. Of course she's lying. But the judge doesn't know that. All the judge knows is that there's a witness willing to testify that Marcus is innocent. That's enough to grant a new trial. When does it start? 6 months. Maybe sooner if the defense pushes for a speedy trial. Can we stop it? Maybe. If we can prove Patricia Holloway is a fraud. But that's going to be difficult if we can't find her. I hung up, called Caleb, told him the news. He's going to get out, Caleb said. His voice was flat. Hollow. Not if I can help it. How? He has a witness. We don't even know who she is. We'll find her. Everyone leaves traces. Especially people who don't want to be found. I called Sasha. Patricia Holloway. I said, "What do you know?" Never heard of her. Marcus is using her to get a new trial. She's claiming she forged the documents. Not him. That's insane. Marcus was the one who. I know. But we need to prove it. Can you help? Sasha was quiet for a moment. I can try. But I need access to Marcus's communications. His letters. His phone calls. Everything. That's going to be difficult. He's in prison. I have sources. Remember. People who owe me favors. Do what you have to do. I hung up, stared at the wall. Thought about the past 10 years. Everything I'd built. Everything I'd protected. Everything that was about to be ripped away. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Don't panic. I have a plan. Who are you? Your best hope. Meet me at the cemetery tomorrow at midnight. Come alone. The cemetery. Our family plot. Where my grandparents were buried. Where my mother had bought a plot for herself and Richard. Where I had a headstone with my name on it even though I was still alive. I typed back, "Why there?" Because it's neutral ground. Because no one will be watching. Because it's time we met face to face. How will I recognize you? You'll know. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the messages. 10 years of messages. 10 years of someone watching. Waiting. Helping from the shadows. Who could it be? Someone from the trial. Someone from Marcus's past. Someone I'd met before. In my past life. Someone I'd forgotten. I thought about the car. The impact. The darkness. The moment of waking up in my childhood bed. 17 years younger. With all my memories intact. Was it possible that I wasn't the only one who remembered? Was it possible that someone else had come back too? The next day, I worked from home. I couldn't focus. I kept looking at the clock, counting down the hours until midnight. Kayla called. I want to come with you. No. The message said alone. It could be a trap. It could be. But if it is, I don't want you there. Celeste. I'll be fine. I've survived worse. He didn't argue. He knew me well enough by now to know that arguing was pointless. At 11:30, I got in my car and drove to the cemetery. The gates were locked. I parked outside and climbed the fence. The iron was cold under my hands. The ground was wet from recent rain. I walked through the rows of headstones, reading names, remembering faces. My grandparents. My great-grandparents. My great-great-grandparents. For generations of Vanderbilts. Buried in the same plot of land. Watching over the family they'd built. I reached my own headstone. It was small. Tucked between my mother's empty plot and my father's. Celeste Vanderbilt. Beloved daughter. Rest in peace. Diane had put it up after the trial. As a memorial to the girl I'd been before everything changed. Beautiful. Isn't it? I turned around. A woman stood behind me. She was tall. 50-ish. With gray, streaked hair and sharp blue eyes. She wore a black coat and black boots. She looked like someone who'd spent a lot of time in cemeteries. Who are you? My name is Margaret Holloway. Patricia Holloway is my daughter. I stiffened. Your daughter is helping Marcus Webb get out of prison. My daughter is being blackmailed. Marcus has something on her. Something she's been hiding for 20 years. What? Margaret smiled. It was a sad smile. The smile of someone who'd seen too much and lost too much. That's the problem. I don't know. She won't tell me. But I know Marcus. I've known him since we were kids. He doesn't do anything without a reason. If you know him so well, why are you helping me? Because I owe your mother a debt. A long time ago. When I was young and stupid and in trouble, Diane Vanderbilt helped me. She didn't have to. She didn't know me. But she helped me anyway. I've never forgotten. And you've been texting me all these years. Some of the messages. Not all. There are others. People who want to help. People who want to see Marcus pay for what he's done. Others. Who? People you haven't met yet. People who are waiting in the shadows. Just like me. I looked at her. Really looked. She wasn't lying. I'd spent enough time around liars to know the difference. Your daughter. I said. Where is she? I don't know. She disappeared after giving her testimony. Marcus's people are hiding her. Can you find her? Maybe. If I had help. You have help. You have me. You have my resources. My lawyers. My investigators. Anything you need. Margaret nodded. There's one more thing. Something you need to know about Marcus. Something he's been planning since before he went to prison. What? He has a son. Not Caleb. Another son. Younger. Born after he was incarcerated. A boy named Daniel. Marcus arranged for the mother to get pregnant through artificial insemination, using his sperm that had been frozen before the trial. I felt sick. He planned all of this. Even before he went to prison. He planned it. Marcus always plans ahead. That's what makes him dangerous. Where is Daniel now? With the mother. A woman named Rebecca Stone. She lives in Vermont. She doesn't know who Marcus really is. She thinks he's a political prisoner. Wrongfully convicted. Fighting for justice. She's going to be devastated when she finds out the truth. Maybe. Or maybe she already knows and doesn't care. Some people will believe anything if it's what they want to hear. I thought about my mother. About how she'd believed Evelyn for 15 years. About how she'd wanted to believe. Because the alternative was too painful. I need to find Rebecca Stone. I said. I need to talk to her. Be careful. Marcus has people watching her. If they know you're coming, they'll kill her to keep her quiet. Then I'll be careful. Margaret reached into her coat and pulled out a flash drive. Everything I have on Marcus. His network. His accounts. His plans. It's all on here. I took the flash drive. It felt heavy in my hand. Why didn't you give this to me sooner? Because I wasn't sure I could trust you. But after watching you for 10 years, I'm sure. You're not like the other Vanderbilts. You're a fighter. I learned from the best. She smiled. Your mother would be proud. Margaret walked away. I watched her disappear between the headstones. Swallowed by the darkness. My phone buzzed. One down. More to come. I didn't delete this message. I saved it. I was going to find out who was behind all of this. Even if it took me the rest of my life. Rebecca Stone lived in a farmhouse in northern Vermont. Surrounded by fields and forests and nothing else. It was the kind of place where people went to disappear. The kind of place where secrets could stay buried forever. I drove up on a Sunday. Alone. No security. No backup. Just me and the flash drive and a burner phone I'd bought at a gas station. The farmhouse was white. Picket fence. Flower boxes. A swing on the front porch. It looked like something out of a movie. The kind of house where happy families lived and nothing ever went wrong. I knocked on the door. A woman answered. She was young. Maybe 30. With blonde hair and blue eyes and a baby on her hip. The baby was small. Maybe a year old. With dark hair and dark eyes that looked exactly like Marcus's. Can I help you? She asked. Rebecca Stone. Who's asking? My name is Celeste Vanderbilt. I need to talk to you about Marcus Webb. Rebecca's face went pale. She stepped back, pulling the baby closer. I don't know anyone by that name. Yes, you do. He's the father of your son. The man you've been writing to in prison. The man who told you he was a political prisoner. Wrongfully convicted. Fighting for justice. How do you know about that? Because I'm the one who put him in prison. For embezzlement. For fraud. for attempted murder, for conspiracy to commit. Stop. Rebecca's voice was shaking. Just stop. You don't know what you're talking about. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I have the court documents. I have the witness testimony. I have the evidence that convicted him. If you want to see it, I can show you. Rebecca looked at the baby, looked at me, looked back at the baby. Come in, she said. The farmhouse was small but cozy. Rebecca made tea. She put the baby in a playpen. She sat across from me at the kitchen table and listened while I told her everything. The embezzlement, the forged documents, the kidnapping, the attempted murder, Marcus's affair with Evelyn, Marcus's relationship with Sasha, Marcus's plan to take over the Vanderbilt fortune, Marcus's role in my mother's rape, Marcus's role in the birth of 2 children, Caleb and me. By the time I finished, Rebecca was crying. I didn't know, she said. He told me. He said he was innocent. He said his ex-wife had framed him. He said he was fighting to get back to his son. Which son? Caleb. Or Daniel? Both. He said he had 2 sons. One from a previous relationship, and one from a woman who'd abandoned him. He said he was trying to be a good father. He's not a good father. He's not a good anything. He's a monster. Rebecca wiped her eyes. What do you want from me? I want you to testify. At his new trial. I want you to tell the jury what he told you. I want you to show them that he's been manipulating people from prison, building a network, planning his escape. He'll kill me. He'll try. But I won't let him. Rebecca looked at the baby. Daniel was sleeping, his small chest rising and falling, his dark hair curling against his forehead. Okay, she said. I'll do it. I drove back to Boston that night. The roads were dark. The rain had started again. I kept checking my rearview mirror, waiting for headlights that never came. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Good work. Rebecca was the key. Who are you? Someone who's been waiting a long time for this. Tell me your name. Soon. I promise. I threw the phone onto the passenger seat. I was tired of the games. Tired of the secrets. Tired of not knowing who was helping me and who was trying to destroy me. When I got home, Sasha was waiting in my apartment. We have a problem, she said. What now? Marcus knows about Rebecca. Someone told him. He's already contacted his people. They're going to try to silence her before the trial. How do you know? Because I have a mole inside Marcus's operation. Someone who's been feeding me information for years. Who? I can't tell you. Not yet. But I can tell you that Rebecca isn't safe in Vermont. Marcus knows where she lives. He knows everything. Then we move her. Somewhere he can't find her. Where? He has people everywhere. I know a place. The cabin in the Adirondacks. The one Evelyn used. Marcus doesn't know about it. Evelyn never told him. Are you sure? I'm sure. Evelyn was always careful to keep some things for herself. Sasha nodded. I'll make the arrangements. She left. I sat alone in my apartment, thinking about Marcus, about the network he'd built, about the people who were helping him, about the mole inside his operation who was helping Sasha. Who could it be? Someone who worked at the prison. Someone who had access to Marcus's communications. Someone who had reason to hate him. I thought about Margaret Holloway, about her daughter, Patricia, who'd testified against Marcus and then disappeared, about the possibility that Patricia wasn't a willing participant, that she was being blackmailed, just like Rebecca had been manipulated. I thought about Caleb, about the way he'd looked at me when we first met, about the fear in his eyes, the hope, the desperation. My brother, my blood, the only person in the world who understood what it was like to be raised by Marcus Webb. I called him. Caleb, I need you to come to Boston. Stay with me for a while. Marcus is making a move. And I don't want you alone. I can take care of myself. I know you can. But I don't want you to have to. Let me help you. That's what family does. He was quiet for a moment. Then, okay, I'll be there tomorrow. I hung up, stared at the ceiling, thought about everything that had happened in the past 10 years. My phone buzzed. You're almost there. Don't give up now. I didn't delete the message. I saved it. I was going to find out who was behind this. And when I did, I was going to thank them. The trial started on a Monday. I sat in the front row of the courtroom, between Diane and Caleb. Richard was on Diane's other side. Sasha was in the back, watching, waiting. Rebecca Stone was in the witness room, holding baby Daniel, trying not to cry. Marcus Webb walked into the courtroom in handcuffs and an orange jumpsuit. He looked older than I remembered. Grayer, thinner. His eyes were the same. Sharp, cold, calculating. But his body had been worn down by 10 years in prison. He looked at me as they led him to the defense table. He smiled. I didn't smile back. The prosecutor was a woman named Linda Hartley. She'd been on the original trial team. She knew the case better than anyone. She'd spent the past 10 years waiting for this moment. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, she said in her opening statement, 10 years ago, Marcus Webb was convicted of crimes that destroyed the Vanderbilt family. He stole their money. He manipulated their employees. He attempted to murder their daughter. And now, after 10 years of playing games with the legal system, he's back in this courtroom, trying to convince you that he's innocent. Don't believe him. The evidence against Marcus Webb is overwhelming. The witnesses are credible. The documents are authentic. Nothing has changed except Marcus's desperation. The defense attorney was a man named Samuel Cross. He was young, sharp, and hungry. He'd made a name for himself getting guilty people acquitted on technicalities. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, my client is innocent. He was framed by Evelyn Webb, a woman who has since been convicted of fraud and embezzlement. He was betrayed by people he trusted. He was abandoned by the system that was supposed to protect him. But he is not a criminal. And by the end of this trial, you will see the truth. The first witness was Patricia Holloway. She walked into the courtroom like she owned it. Head high, shoulders back, eyes fixed on some point in the distance. She was pretty in a hard way. The kind of pretty that came from surviving things that should have killed you. Ms. Holloway, Samuel Cross said, please tell the jury your connection to this case. I was the one who forged the documents. She said, not Marcus Webb. I did it for Evelyn Webb. She paid me. She promised me protection. She lied. Did Marcus Webb ever ask you to forge documents on his behalf? No. He didn't even know who I was until after the trial. And yet he was convicted based on those documents. Yes. Thank you, Ms. Holloway. Linda Hartley stood up for Cross. Examination. Ms. Holloway, you claim you forged the documents. Can you tell the jury where you learned to forge signatures? I taught myself. When? In my 20s. Can you provide any examples of other forgeries you've committed? Patricia hesitated. No. You've been forging documents for years. But you can't provide a single example. I destroyed them. Convenient. Objection. Samuel Cross said, badgering the witness. Sustained. Linda Hartley smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. Ms. Holloway, isn't it true that you're being blackmailed by Marcus Webb? That he has something on you? Something you've been hiding for 20 years. And he's using it to force you to testify. Patricia's face went pale. No. We have phone records. Ms. Holloway, emails, letters. All of them show that Marcus Webb has been in contact with you for the past 10 years. Even though he was supposed to have no contact with potential witnesses. That's not. Isn't it true that Marcus Webb knows about the baby? The courtroom went silent. Patricia's hands were shaking. I don't know what you're talking about. The baby you gave up for adoption 22 years ago. The baby whose father was Marcus Webb. The baby you've been trying to find ever since. Patricia burst into tears. Linda Hartley walked to the witness stand and placed a hand on Patricia's shoulder. Ms. Holloway, I know this is difficult, but the truth matters. And the truth is that Marcus Webb has been manipulating you for years. He used your love for your child to control you. He used your fear to silence you. But you don't have to be silent anymore. Patricia looked at Marcus. Marcus looked at her. His smile was gone. He told me he'd help me find the baby. Patricia whispered. He said if I testified for him, he'd use his resources to track down my son. He said we could be a family. Did you believe him? I wanted to believe him. I wanted it so badly. But now I know he was lying. He never had any intention of helping me. He just wanted to use me. Linda Hartley turned to the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, Patricia Holloway is not a credible witness. She's a desperate mother who was manipulated by a desperate man. And her testimony should not be trusted. The trial lasted 2 weeks. Rebecca Stone testified. She told the jury about Marcus's letters, his phone calls, his promises. She told them about the artificial insemination, the baby, the network of people Marcus had built from inside his prison cell. Sasha testified. She told the jury about her mother's affair with Marcus, about the plans they'd made, about the way Marcus had betrayed Evelyn when it suited him. Caleb testified. He told the jury about growing up with Marcus, about the manipulation and the lies, about the moment he realized his father was a monster. I testified last. I sat in the witness chair and told the jury everything. The embezzlement, the forged documents, the kidnapping, the gun, the way Marcus had smiled when he said he'd killed me before. Is it true? Samuel Cross asked on cross examination that you have no memory of the events you just described. I remember everything. You were 14 years old. You'd been sick. You were running a fever. Isn't it possible that you imagined some of this? That your memory isn't reliable? My memory is perfectly reliable. Objection. Linda Hartley said. The witness's memory has already been established as accurate by multiple corroborating sources. Overruled. The judge said. Answer the question. Ms. Vanderbilt. I looked at Samuel Cross. I looked at Marcus. I looked at the jury. My memory is reliable. I said, I remember everything. I remember the car that killed me in another life. I remember waking up in my childhood bed with 17 years of memories that shouldn't have existed. I remember everything Marcus Webb did to my family, in this life and in the one before. The courtroom was silent. Ms. Vanderbilt. The judge said, Are you claiming to have lived a previous life? I'm claiming to have memories that shouldn't be possible. Call it whatever you want. But those memories saved my family. And they're going to put Marcus Webb back in prison where he belongs. Samuel Cross had no more questions. The jury deliberated for 3 days. I waited in the courthouse hallway, surrounded by my family. Diane held my hand. Caleb stood on my other side, his arm around my shoulders. Richard paced back and forth. Back and forth. Sasha sat in the corner, reading a book. She looked calm. She always looked calm. You're going to win, she said without looking up. How do you know? Because Marcus is a fool. He always has been. He just hides it better than most. The jury came back at 4 o'clock on a Friday. Has the jury reached a verdict? The judge asked. We have, Your Honor. The foreman stood up. He was a middle-aged man with gray hair and tired eyes. He looked at me every day of the trial, trying to understand, trying to believe. On the charge of embezzlement, we find the defendant guilty. Marcus's face didn't change. On the charge of fraud, we find the defendant guilty. On the charge of conspiracy, we find the defendant guilty. On the charge of attempted murder, We find the defendant guilty. On the charge of witness tampering. We find the defendant guilty. On the charge of obstruction of justice. We find the defendant guilty. The foreman listed 17 counts. 17 guilty verdicts. Marcus Webb was going back to prison. Not for life this time. For multiple life sentences. Consecutive. He would never get out. He would never see daylight again. He would never hurt anyone again. The judge sentenced him that same day. Mr. Webb, you are a danger to society. You have manipulated, cheated, and stolen your way through life. You have shown no remorse. You have shown no capacity for change. I am sentencing you to 5 consecutive life terms, without the possibility of parole. Marcus didn't react. He just looked at me. Just smiled. See you soon. He mouthed. I didn't flinch. I didn't look away. I just smiled back. No, I said. You won't. The bailiffs led him away. The courtroom emptied. The cameras flashed. The reporters shouted. I walked out into the sunlight. Diane was crying. Richard was holding her. Caleb was standing apart, watching the doors where Marcus had disappeared. It's over, I said. Caleb shook his head. It's never over. Not with him. Then we'll be ready. I put my arm around my brother, my mother, my father, my family. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Congratulations. You earned this. Thank you. For everything. Don't thank me yet. You still have one more mystery to solve. What mystery? The messages. The ones that weren't from Margaret. The ones that have been guiding you for 10 years. You still don't know who sent them. I looked at my phone. Looked at the messages. Thousands of them. Going back a decade. Guiding me. Warning me. Protecting me. Who are you? Someone who loves you. Someone who's been watching over you since the day you were born. Someone who's been waiting for the right moment to come home. Then come home now. I will. Soon. I put my phone away. Looked up at the sky. The sun was setting. The clouds were pink and orange and gold. Someone was out there. Someone who knew me. Someone who'd been protecting me across 2 lifetimes. I didn't know who. I didn't know why. But I was going to find out.